Welcome back and thanks for tuning in. It's deeper than sports, and that's why I created this series to answer your questions on personal finance, entrepreneurship, as well as share with you my stock purchase of the week using the Robinhood app. Hey, but before we even go further, do me a favor, like and subscribe to the channel. So today's video is about depression and how to overcome disappointment. I got this question on Instagram, so I wanted to share my story on how I dealt with depression and how I overcame disappointment. So for those that don't know, my first love was football and basketball. Football in particular, mainly because a couple reasons, man. I'm only 5'9", so I didn't grow to be super tall like most basketball players. And then I saw a lot of guys my height, my body frame that was able to make it professionally. And so I felt like I could emulate that path because I had the same abilities as most of those guys. And so I thought that was the easiest route, for me to get to the league, play professional sports. And so that was one of the main reasons why I chose football over basketball. I quickly learned that football is a marriage that's guaranteed to end in divorce. And that goes for no matter who you are. That don't matter if you're a first-round draft pick or a sixth-round draft pick. It don't matter if you undrafted or if you're a guy like myself that just didn't make it. It's guaranteed to end in divorce. And so for me, man, over time, I started to realize that I had given more to the game than it had given me. And that's a hard pill to swallow, especially when you dedicated so much to the sport since I was 8 years old. And so to this day, I had a longer life as an athlete than I have as a professional entrepreneur or anything like that. And so since 8 years old, that's what I dedicated everything towards, was being as the best I can be, combining my work ethic with my athletic gifts and abilities. Did all that to eventually come up short of making my dreams to become a professional athlete. I will say this, man, and I say this every time I'm out giving talks about this particular type of subject. I was a Division I athlete, and although I played football at the highest level as far as college, I didn't have the type of success at the college level that would even justify me having a career at the professional level. I got hit with the injury bug time and time again, man. I would dislocate my shoulder. And every time I was making some ground, I just had one setback after another. And for athletes, man, we often say a player's best ability is their availability. And you can't really accomplish much, man, if you're always in the training room, if you're always getting iced up, if you're always on the injured list. And so that's what my career ended up amounting to, is just setback after setback. And so that's how I led. That what led me into this bout of depression. One thing for me, man, one of the ways that I kind of overcame depression, as well as everything else, man, I had to defeat depression, man, to kind of show athletes like myself that it was still possible to achieve, that it was still possible to make something of our lives, even though what we had dedicated so much of our lives to didn't necessarily work out in the way that we thought it would. So for me, in all honesty, that's when I kind of drew closer to trying to get to know the Lord. And then from there, I was intentional about strengthening my walk with the Lord. And so oftentimes for a lot of us, man, it take us to hit rock bottom before we really reach that place where we are calling out or crying out and wanting better for our life, man. And I knew for myself personally that I was more than just a football player. I was more than an athlete, but I had to discover that, and I had to realize that I was fearfully and wonderfully made, but that I also had many gifts that were bestowed upon me. And so when I realized and tapped into all the other things that I was good at, I soon realized, man, there's more to life than me just being down and out and mad about how things didn't go with my sports career. And so here we are today, and been an entrepreneur, been the #1 or top entrepreneur for several years. showing athletes, man, how to successfully transition from a life that we were accustomed to how to also win on this side of corporate America, if you will. And so for me, man, it's been a journey. It ain't been easy, but one thing I noticed, man, is we got a work ethic that's unmatched. I don't care who you are. There's nobody in the world, in no profession, that has a better work ethic than an athlete. And so all we got to do is apply the same thing that made us great in our particular sport. All we got to do is apply that same work ethic to that craft, whether that's school, whether that's a job, whether that's trying to be an entrepreneur, start your own business. And so for me, that's exactly what I did. And the things I wasn't able to accomplish on the football field or as an athlete, I do it 10 times over as an entrepreneur, as a husband, as a father, as, you know what I'm saying, somebody that's just trying to be the best I can be. And so for me, man, I refuse to let depression defeat me. I refuse to bow out to it. And I gave myself a little bit of time until I was able to kind of figure out what I wanted to do. And what I wanted to do was, man, I wanted to serve. I wanted to serve in a way that whatever I did was bigger than myself. I wanted to be a blessing to as many as people as possible. And that was really the whole reason I wanted to make it to the league, man. I had a brother who was doing 25 years in prison at the time, and I knew he was coming home. And so for me, I didn't want him to have to take penitentiary chances upon his release. And so I was trying to position myself to be able to provide for him. And so not only provided for him, but provided for others, my family, friends, those I would come in contact with was always the real reason why I even wanted to make it to the league in the first place. That didn't happen, but the Lord still made a way. And so I'm still able to do those things today. I'm just not a household name. I'm just a regular guy. But I showed you, and I show you, and I try to in each and every video, ways that you can still live the life that you want, even though the path you took to get there might be a lot different than you imagine. For me, those are some of the small ways of how I overcame disappointment, as well as how I dealt with depression. I hope that helps you. I hope that inspired you. Again, if you're not dead, you're not done. And so don't let it defeat you. Find what it is that make you tick. Tap into whatever your purpose might be. And understand, man, most people see the end result. Very few consider the journey. Do me a favor. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Comment below if you can. Grab some free stock. And I'll see you in the next one.